The day I turned 16, I joined the RAF. There was various reasons why I joined the RAF. I think one of them primarily was I just wanted to get away from where I'd spent my childhood in terms of family and in environment. Not to go into any details at this point in time. That was there. There was also a kind of vague thoughts of patriotism and a kind of romance played a small part, but primarily I think it was a kind of watered down version of somebody joining the Foreign Legion. Anyway, I was accepted onto a training course which was run by the RAF, I would spend 2 years virtually 2 years in a training unit learning the mysteries of radar. I arrived with far too much hair, and the first thing that happened was we were sat down with a clerk and actually signed the necessary papers. Cheerfully, without a second thought, I signed away 12 years of my life. In retrospect, rather appalling, really, for a 16-year-old to be able to do this. Whether it's still allowed, I'm not absolutely sure, but that was certainly no problem at that point in time. In rapid succession, we were issued with uniform and all the necessary accoutrements of a RAF recruit, wheeled off to the barbers, and our hair, certainly in my case, which was quite luxuriant locks, was shaved in the regulatory manner. It was an interesting couple of years. The mix of people I met were people I wouldn't have normally met. There was people from Northern Ireland in particular, and Scotland, the UK. There was also one or two people, in fact, who are Anglo-Indian. I presume maybe servicemen who'd married an Indian lady. I mean, one particular guy actually was called Maguire, another Maguire. It was when we were talking about the actual technical training, was a mixture of practicalities and theoretical. So I was inducted into the mysteries of waveforms and magnetrons and bizarre things, but extremely important, of course, historically, such as the double Rubitron klystron and things like F0 equals 2 over F0 over 1 over 2 pi root LC is the resonant frequency, positive feedbacks and all kind of stuff. Most of the tutors, the teachers, in fact, were probably graduates who, in fact, were doing their 2 years national service in the most amenable way possible. The whole system was run very much on the lines of what you might describe as a kind of rather down-market public school. There was a lot of marching, of course, up and down, up and down, up and down. You had to remember your number, etc., etc. But it definitely had that kind of minor public school kind of ambience, with houses and teams, loyalty to the particular house. There was a modicum of bullying went on, quite definitely. And also, there was a certain amount of fagging went on. If you don't know what fagging means, perhaps even if you're not English or you're not come from England or the British Isles or know about public schools, fagging, in fact, is actually to get younger members of the group to do your various chores, like clean your shoes and iron your equipment, etc., etc. There was a very significant amount of this went on. We weren't allowed out of the place for the first 6 weeks until we were presentable, and then we were actually allowed initially to go just really to the local village, and then at some point on we were allowed to go to the nearest town. I was also, being a musician, a member of the voluntary band, which was very good, and in fact was a good way of actually disappearing at times and getting away from more onerous aspects of RAF life at this level. Various things happened in terms of the training, which I'm sure wouldn't be allowed now. For instance, being confined to a confined space and exposed to tear gas, it was one of them. Another, exposure to low-level radiation to show dosimeters and Geiger counters, etc., etc. Also, what one did, in fact, if you were actually struck by radiation. These were other aspects of it too. I also played badminton. I played badminton for the team, in fact the station team, which was quite nice. And I've never been very sporting, but in fact sports facilities, of course, were terrific. There was a full-size swimming pool and a running track, and badminton courts you could just wander over and do them. There was also a cinema on site as well. So I didn't have an unpleasant time there, and in many ways it was the beginning of really opening my eyes through meeting people and a realization of how the military system worked, which began to widen my horizons, and in fact really began the first steps in widening my perception. I did rather well, actually, even though I say it myself. I actually, at the final examinations, I passed out actually number 2 in the entire contingent, as it were, and this gave me the opportunity to choose as number 2 in the pack to where I would go after my training. And in fact, I chose RAF Tangmere, which was really as far away as I could possibly get from where I spent my childhood. Do I regret it? No, not really. I'll say more about my RAF career perhaps in future videos, but it was it was a mind experience, it was a mind expanding experience, not only in terms of learning new skills, but certainly on a social level. I began to mature, which is obviously going to happen when you're 16 years old, but getting away from my everyday environment as a child and young teenager, it wouldn't have happened. This really did actually sort of open my eyes to all kinds of things. And so, yeah, it was a good start. And I think in terms of physical prowess, as it were, it was also very good, because in a way it's quite monastic, this kind of life. You get up very early in the morning and you go to bed very early in the morning, and it's a disciplined and ordered life. So I think it actually held me in good stead in terms of actually physical health, etc., etc. So there we are. So that was the beginning of my RAF career. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please subscribe.